Hello, friends. Welcome to Empty Cloud Monastery. I am here, with Bhante Sumita, who's in another room, but still here at Empty Cloud Monastery. And we have two special guests this evening for our monk chat, Venerable Kavilo and Venerable Nisabo. Hello, Venerables, who are part of Clear Mountain Monastery, a soon-to-be monastery in bones, flesh and bones, but now currently an aspiration. It's definitely alive and well online, so hopefully there will be a physical presence soon. So if you go to onclearmountain.org, is that correct, Venerable Nisabo?
clearmountainmonastery.org. Thank you.
Mixing up, missing a part. Yeah, you can find a lot of different information on the project. So welcome to our friends here, Sam, Joy, Geeta, Rick, Tara. Good to see you, Tara, Robin, and Jayanta, Kumu, Venus, many friends. All right, so we have, I believe, one question already from Rick, who's asking, Venerables, can you share some reflections on learning to be at peace when people misunderstand us and misrepresent us to others? Bhante Sumita, if I can invite you.
Yeah, I think people can always misunderstand us. um, and they might not know us, or you might not know them. And in such a case, the most important thing, I think, is um, to be at peace yourself. And maybe some people don't want to understand you, or they have completely different viewpoint. And what is more important, actually, in any case, is your own inner peace. If that is hurt, that is disturbed, um, this is where you have to be careful. Like it is said, the arahanta person is called thadi. Thadi means equanimous person. So when an arahanta person becomes thadi, he is not being moved by any of these torments around. So whatever happens around, he will not be affected. So hopefully we are on the way there. That is our final goal. So we also have to practice that path. There can be a lot of difficulties. There people will be different. Like our hand, we have 5 fingers, so they are all different sizes. And many of the people, like we like to point fingers at others, but we don't realize that actually more fingers are pointing at ourselves. So I think it is also a good way to think, like, don't worry about what other people think or misunderstand. Maybe time will come when the time you keep walking on your way. If you feel you are doing the right thing, keep walking, keep doing, and keep continuing. And somehow, somewhere, those people who misunderstand you might understand you better, and they might come back to you, will join hand with you. With or without them, you will still continue. Remember, we were born here alone, and we will go alone in the samsara, right? And in between, we will meet many people. So whether they are with us or not, we still have to continue. If we have like-minded people, so much the better. But for sure, we will have like-minded people. I'm so happy to meet these beautiful like-minded people right here, right now. I feel honored to meet such wonderful monks and nuns. They are really amazing. So we also will find them, somehow keep working on those wonderful Kalyana Mitta friends. And there is a beautiful Pali stanza I always dearly hold into my heart. That is Imina Punya Kangmena Mame Bala Samagamo Satang Samagamo Hotu Yavanimbana Pattiya. By the power of this merit, may I never be associated with foolish friends. May I always be associated with wonderful Kalyanamita good friends until I attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. So, if we keep on thinking of them, if we keep praying for those wonderful Kalyanamita friends in your life, whether you are in the middle of the ocean, whether you are in the middle of the desert, whether you are in the middle of a dense forest, you will never be alone. You will always have those good friends, and the blessings of them will always be there with you. Remember, first, you have to be a good friend to them too. First, you have to set an example as a great friend. A friend in need is a friend indeed, right? So be a good friend to others and show your compassion, loving kindness to others. Be patient, be kind, be generous, and eventually you will feel you're not alone, and your inner peace will be more strengthened. When you are stronger with your inner peace, there will be many, many more people who will be coming to you. Not only the people, humans, also the devas, also even the other sentient beings will be with you. You will not be alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Bante. And Ajahn Kaviro maybe has a few other words to add on the subject matter.
Ajahn, I can't hear you.
We can't unmute you because you muted yourself. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, thank you. I was a bit transfixed by Bante's response. Yes, so beautiful, especially that that Pali chant, Imina Punya Kamena Mame Bala Samagamo. Bante, since I met you, was that 3 months ago? I've been chanting that every day. And I mean, with the beautifulness that Bante chants it with, and Bante's like overwhelming metta, one might, it's pretty profound, the meaning of that. By the power of this merit, by the power of this goodness, may I not be associated with fools. I mean, it's such a profound statement, and it almost seems like, in one sense, it almost seems like a kind of mean statement. May I not, one, you're calling some people foolish, which some brands and flavors of American spirituality would just say, what? There are no foolish people, and in one sense, or there are no fools, and in one sense that's true. But I think it's an important thing to recognize foolish actions, and to really not be associated with people who that's their habitual habits. So being able to parse out, as the question goes, are the person who is misunderstanding us, are they full of foolish actions by body, speech, and mind? And if they are, then may we not be associated with such people, at least in our thoughts. We don't have to keep on proliferating about what they think, because ultimately it won't really be for our own benefit. So I just really appreciate that that chant and that sentiment, and having it originally taught to me by someone with so much metta, such that you can't, I was able to look past what seems like it might be an almost like antisocial meaning into really being something which I can work with. So I really appreciate that. Thank you, Bante.
Thank you, Ajahn. And Anisabo, maybe you also have some reflections on the matter.
I was quite touched by the chant too. I mean, it really, yeah, I think I know, I think it's Tim Ferriss says that we're the average of, not that he's a figure Buddhist monks reference very often, but he says that we're the average of the 4 people we spend the most time with. It's a potent reflection, and just, being not judgmental, but judicious, and realizing the real blessing of coming into contact with people of such refinement and beauty in this life. I mean, I remember as a layman being so desperate for people who understood what I was hungry for, and people kind of dabbled here and there, but now being surrounded more and more by others who really understand the importance of this path. I mean, it's there's just a whole I just remember falling in love again, with, say, like Longpo Pasano, like that sort of spiritual falling in love. Like, it's a very concrete, beautiful motion of the heart. And yeah, I mean, this isn't a dry path. And I think the music of Bhante Sumita's chant really speaks to that. This sort of wound away from the actual question, what I was saying, but my reflection around the question itself would be that there's I think a large place for really having sympathy for the depth of difficulty with being slandered and misunderstood. I mean, in sutta called I believe it's sort of Nimitta Sutta in the Anguttara Threes, and it has to do with refining gold. And one of the most refined things that the goldsmith takes out of the gold after removing the coarse gravel and grit, which is compared to coarse, actions and speech, and then coarse intentions, is the fine dust. The sort of last thing you clear from the mind is not wanting to be despised. And I think that's an acknowledgement of how deeply rooted it is. And you think of the 8 worldly winds: gain, loss, pleasure, pain, fame, disrepute, praise, blame. And 4 of them have to do with this, deep instinct to want to be understood and accepted. Because, in the chimpanzee tribe, if you were exiled, you were dead. I mean, it's a survival instinct. So I think there's a big place for just acknowledging this isn't some, little social thing. It can really strike at something very deep in us. And yet what Bhante Sumita was saying, that if you're practicing this path, you're never alone. And at the same time, we come and go alone, in terms of the people we meet. So I think just having a lot of compassion for ourselves and understanding that all these relationships and the Dhamma asks that the things we're attached most to be let go of. And so it's, encountering fame or slander or disrepute is, one more thing that we're asked to kind of look beyond, but it's not always a fun process, I don't think.
Thank you so much to all the 3 venerables for sharing some thoughts. I think everything has been said. Perhaps I will just add one of I don't remember the name of the sutta, but it's the Anguttara Nikaya, where actually the Buddha encourages us to reflect on all the doubts that we can have when people start slandering us, or saying not terribly good things about us to other people, or perhaps actually harming others as well. And he goes, oh yeah, all these people are going to go and start hating me, and all these rumors are going to go, and but what can I do about it?
What else should I expect, right? What should I expect?
Say it again, sorry.
What should I expect? I know that there's one sutta that says that, at least. Yes.
Yeah, something like that. Mm-hmm. I translated it in my mind. What can I do about it? What can I do about it? And actually, I found it very helpful. I actually do that with my practice as well, here and there. Whenever certain thoughts arise of things that we can't control, but well, what can I do about it? Not really, not that much. So why are we like holding on to what we can't control? But what we can control is actually what we're doing right now. You know, the wholesome, actually skillful, as our resident Kyle was telling us, but better word than wholesome, he was suggesting today. So skillful actions through body, speech, and mind that we can do in this moment, that we can control, and that makes us instantly happy. So yeah, then we learn to be at peace right here, right now. It's not actually a learning for the future, but right now we can accomplish that straight away. All right, and Shadow of Label, who I always forget the real name, but we always know the nickname, says, apparently we skipped her question the other night. I apologize for that. The question is, why is the Dalai Lama not a Buddha? Well, it depends who you ask, Shadow of Label. But and also by what you mean by a Buddha. So if you mean Sammasambuddha, my understanding is in the Theravada tradition, well, nobody can be a Sammasambuddha right now because we still have the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha. So right now, whether we're the Dalai Lama or not the Dalai Lama, all we can be is an Anu Buddha, so someone who follows the teachings of a Sammasambuddha, so Shakyamuni Buddha, and realizes awakening. So if the Dalai Lama is awakened, which some people say he is, then he would be an Anu Buddha, so technically a Buddha, but not a Sammasambuddha like like Shakyamuni Buddha. I don't know, though, how they use these words within the Tibetan tradition. So perhaps I'll ask the other venerables if they can share some thoughts on it, on the subject matter. Nobody's volunteering.
I think like Dalai Lama can definitely, if he wants to, he can be a Sambuddha someday. You and I all have the Buddha nature. If you wish to, you can also be a Buddha for sure. So, so I think the beauty of Buddhism is that we all have the potential to become a Buddha. I think that really makes so much sense because whether we want to become a Samma Sambuddha, Pacceka Buddha, or Arahanta, we have the opportunity to do so. And so rather than worrying or thinking of others, maybe you think, why don't I become a Buddha? Then keep working on your perfections, paramitas, and I think that is an amazing thing if you can keep working on yourself. Maybe mentally you have to think. This is called um, Chetasika paramita or Manasika paramita. First, you have to mentally think, I really want to become a Buddha. You don't want to say that now. Maybe it will take some words and words of maturity. When you are really confident, then you will say, I really want to become a Buddha. And then still you're not acting enough. You keep saying, I want to become a Buddha. And then you will really, when you are really into that, you will keep working on that. Yes, why not? I can spend more time in the samsara for the benefit of the many. Remember, when you want to become a Buddha, you definitely have to suffer more in the samsara. All the leaders, they suffer more, right? Although you look like they are in the um, they are always highlighted. They will be in the spotlight all the time. But they are the people who suffer most. Remember, they have to wake up earlier. They have to be prepared for many, many things. They have to run around, organize, and do many things. Leaders are not really so easy. If you want to become Arahanta, it is much easier actually. you, you can become Arahanta. So, yeah, you have to decide whether I am capable of doing it or not. If you really want to help many, many more sentient beings in the world who really, really need your help, think of becoming a Buddha, Samma Sambuddha. If you think it is not my cup of tea, I really want to work on my own self liberation, but still it makes so much sense. Even if you become an Arahanta person, you can be an inspiration to so many other millions of people. And Samma Sambuddha would be a self enlightened person who could inspire many, many more others, who could also help rescue, many, many people from this samsaric misery. Arahanta person who definitely need the guidance of the Buddha to be liberated. And there can be millions of them who are not capable of enough to be self-enlightened. They need the guidance of the Buddha. But once they are liberated, they can also be such a beacon of light, inspiration to many, many other innumerable sentient beings. Think of like Venerable Sariputta, Venerable Mahamoggallana, Venerable Ananda. Every time I read those stories, I read the suttas related to them, Venerable Mahakassapa, I feel so impressed. I feel so happy in my heart. They are so wonderful monks. So think of them, there is nothing bad in becoming an Arahanta. And Pacheka Buddha also. Pacheka Buddha would come into this world when there is no other Dhamma in the world. So they would be self-enlightened too. But they would be more kind of a private Buddhas. They would be more into their own self-isolated practice. They would not be interested in interacting with others much. It would be the perfectly enlightened Samma Sambuddha who could help many more, who could actually go to the mainstream society and help rescue so many other sentient beings. And I wish and I pray that all of you decide your own final liberation, final goal. Thank you.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Bante. And Robin asks, if all our experiences are the results of our own karma, what role do we have in each other's lives? How can we affect each other? Ajahn Kavino?
Yeah, this is a very good question. Yeah, we are, as the reflection goes in the verse in Anguttara 5s, there are 5 things that not just monks and nuns, but also lay people are suggested to reflect on daily. I am of the nature to age. I have the nature to sicken. I am of the nature to die. I have not gone beyond aging, sickness, and death. All that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. And this is the one about karma. I am the owner of my karma, heir to my karma, born of my karma, related to my karma, abide supported by my karma. Whatever I do, for good or for ill, that I'll be the heir. So, yeah, I'm the owner of my own karma, but yeah, we're all influenced by the external world, and yeah, each of us does affect the immediate environment around us, and yeah, I mean, from it's, fairly easy to see the role that parents serve in, shaping their children to various degrees. And yeah, it's really the same with all of us, with all of our interactions. And but in line with that truth that we're the owner of our karma, owner of our actions, what's really important there is intention. So one's intentions to be of benefit to others. And the Buddha did praise that. I mean, that's the primary motivation behind loving kindness and compassion. So may other beings be happy, and may I alleviate the suffering of other beings. And if we act from that intention, that's, yeah, really, on one level, it is like a matter of belief that, one's intentions do make a difference, and one's intentions are meaningful. So when we take on that belief or that theory that, yeah, my intention that I want to help another person, that my intention that I want to help, my neighbor or the person who I live with, that's when I believe that that does have an effect, then that's really all we can do. And maybe that's true, and maybe it's not. But yeah, it's kind of what we have to work with is just our own intention in the present moment, and the degree to which someone else is going to be affected or not. That's such a complicated thing that we really don't have that much control of. So yeah, that's how can we affect each other? Basically by our intentions, and maybe those intentions will be fruitful, and maybe they won't, but that's what we have to work with. So
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Bante. And maybe Tanisabo, you have anything to share on the subject matter?
I mean, the Buddha identified 4 kind of questions that if you contemplated too much would, I believe the term is, cause your head to, well, explode, basically, split into 7 pieces. And one of them is the workings of karma. And so I think that the Buddha's, one of the signs of his wisdom, and something you begin to gain a deeper and deeper appreciation for, was his restraint in teaching. Where so many teachers in that day were philosophizing about the origins of the world, the ends of the world, and Western philosophy can be seen as sort of one gigantic rabbit hole flirting with something of actual meaning. But the Buddha was so restrained around identifying the one issue and simplifying everything to that essential question of how do we end our own suffering, and specifically how we can use our own intention and shape our own intention for in service of that goal. And Ajahn Kovilo saying that perhaps these things have fruit and perhaps they don't. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ajahn, that you're referencing perhaps they have fruit for the other person, but that those intentions always have fruit for us, and or have the potential to have fruit for us, at least in our working hypothesis. And so I think, yeah, we focus on that, and a large part of that skillful intention is non-harming, non-ill will, and renunciation, which the sort of positive correlates would be compassion, loving kindness, and renunciation. And that we can have faith that to some extent that goodness is never lost. But it's also a relief to not know that we're totally responsible for others taking on and being affected explicitly by those things. I mean, there's the analogy of, someone can be right next to someone who's awakened, and they're like the soup ladle ladling the soup, I believe is the metaphor. Like they don't taste the soup at all. And you see that a lot of people sort of come into quite close contact with the Dhamma and they just aren't interested. And I think there's this beauty around focusing on our own intentions that, we try to do what we can, but we still remain focused on the essential question of our own intention and the wholesomeness behind that. And then, see what happens from that is sort of exactly how much someone takes that on or doesn't. Like Ajahn Kovilo said, it's difficult to know. And in terms of the exact machinations of karma and that sort of ebb and flow between beings, that's, I think, relegated in the realm of the Buddha's teaching to something that's a bit not essential in terms of the question. And so it's put aside. Correct me if anyone has additional thoughts. I'm happy to hear as well.
Thank you, Venerable. Actually, maybe since there are a lot of different questions popping up, maybe unless one of the other Venerables really wants to say something. Okay. Then, Dr. Sumita, or did you want to say something, or should we go to the next question?
I think I'm okay. I agree with both of you.
All right, thank you. So Dulani asks, my college professor once mentioned to our class that the Star of David was also anciently symbolized as a symbol in Buddhism. Can you explain more about it? Definitely I cannot. So maybe if there is one of the Venerables who can, they can speak.
I think that is mistaken. at least within the Pali school, certainly not like in the oldest, like the Theravada tradition. Like as far as I know, certainly in the Pali canon, there's no Star of David symbology that I know of. Possibly, maybe somewhere in the commentaries, but I don't think I've ever heard of it. It's possible. I mean, the tradition's 2,500 years old and is spread to, basically the whole world. So it's possible that some specific country has taken on that symbol at some point. I mean, other symbols like the swastika or the reverse swastika. I'm not sure which way is Buddhist and which way is Nazi-esque. Does anyone else know? Is the Star of David a Buddhist symbol in some way?
I would maybe just add, like, I kind of agree with Ajahn Kovilo on this one, but we did have a really interesting conversation with Ajahn Sona about 2 weeks ago around these sort of hidden threads of Buddhism throughout history and this influence that you see everywhere when you start to look. And, there's really decent documentation that say, there's powerful resonances between the Socratics and, sort of Buddhist teachings, although they were extant at the same time. And so probably weren't explicitly influenced, but, there's what was the fact that the Buddhist teachings, they're so potent that they did make their way over to the Mediterranean. And Ajahn Sona is referencing one saint named Saint Josaphat, who, Desert Fathers in 2nd century AD sort of praised this saint for all of his amazing religious exploits and in service of his faith. And then around like 17th century, they realized that Josaphat was a translation of the word bodhisat. And basically the Desert Fathers had gotten a hold of a set of the Jataka tales of the Buddha's past birth and sort of built a church which was still dedicated to Saint Josaphat in Italy in the 18th century. So I don't think we fully understand the ripples of Buddhism into all these cultures yet. It was a really fascinating interview. So who knows, maybe, but I agree with Ajahn Kovilo. I've never seen the Star of David per se.
Yeah, that was a really fascinating story. Just one additional thing, I met a teacher in Thailand. He was not a specifically Buddhist teacher. He was actually a rishi. He had kind of one huge dreadlock that went down to the floor, and he had like beads and Buddha rupas and all sorts of little statues and things in his hair, and very interesting samana with robes, and met him on a good dozen occasions, and he was just fascinating. He kind of like spoke Pali / Sanskrit. He was ostensibly Thai, but you couldn't tell how old he was, somewhere between like 40 and 80 or something, but had, so much energy. But basically he would always just be carrying around something, some like almost like little toy thing. And I remember one time he was carrying around this kind of triangle Rubik's Cube, if that even makes sense. It was like one of these like multicolored puzzles, like toy puzzles. And basically, myself and other people were asking him questions about Dhamma, and he would basically talk about the Dhamma through these different toys, basically. So he would, we'd ask him a question about the Four Noble Truths, and he'd bring it back to like Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, the Tri Ratana, or you would say it's the Adhisika Sila, the Sila, Samadhi, Panya. And, he'd like teach all these Buddhist principles through this, 3-part pyramid, play toy. And I just, I think that, a skillful teacher can take kind of any symbol and really pull things out of it. So certainly, Star of David, 2 triangles, one going up, one going down. You could say it's, any of, several dozen different groups of 3s in the Pali Canon, these different triads, and, how they different interrelate. So maybe that's what the teacher was pointing to.
Yeah, here at Empty Cloud, since it used to be a Catholic monastery, we have a few crosses, and we renamed them the Four Noble Truths. So there's, but actually getting back to also what Tanisama was saying, when I was researching Christian monasticism, actually while going to monasteries in Italy, one of them, the Hermitage of Camaldoli, that you probably pronounce in a different way, Camaldoli, something like that, in the United States. But it's one of the most ancient monasteries in Italy, in Tuscany, and they had the whole history of monasticism displayed on the walls, and it was very interesting how the history of monasticism didn't start with the Desert Fathers, but actually it started with the Buddha.
Really?
Yes.
What did it say? Did it say there was I'm very curious.
Yes, that the Buddha and also the Jains were the first that actually established the monasticism, and how fundamentally that is where we are drawing like the foundations of Christian monasticism. And then you see also historically there has been a lot of going back and forth of different actually missionaries coming from Asia to talk about the teachings of the Buddha, especially in North Africa, and vice versa. So apparently, I haven't verified that, but apparently also in the Bible, there's actually like stories of Christian missionaries going to India, or I don't know about Christian, but definitely Jewish, or anyway, from the Abrahamic religions. So there's something like that, and there's interactions of that sort. Also in Italy, there's a lot of bhikkhus and also bhikkhunis statues that recently now they know what they are in the Gandhara fashion. They're in museums, so I'm very looking forward to actually seeing them next month. There is one bhikkhuni statue in in Milan, in one of the archaeological museums there. In Rome, there are men that are wearing the Gandhara garb and have the sort of hairdress, just like the Buddha depicted in that time. And up until recently, they didn't really know who these, like it was an anonymous bust, for example. It's actually at the Galleria Borghese in Rome. And then they traced it back to the Gandharan period, and how there were actual ancient Romans who were practicing Buddhism up to the 3rd century in Italy, according to them, because of the commerce between India and the ancient Roman Empire. And then as everybody was converted to Christianity in the 3rd century after Christ, then everything disappeared. But there was Buddhism, just like there was Zoroastrianism, just like there was pretty much anything. So there is a lot of interaction, actually, and a lot of influence. Also, the word monk, well, it comes from monos, the Greek term for solitary, but actually it's also related to muni, the silent one from Sanskrit. So there's a lot of fascinating overlapping, and actually in the Christian tradition and the Catholic tradition, they're very much aware of it, and they're actually quite open and yeah.
That's really interesting, Aya. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you all my research once I compile it all together.
One other point that I mean, just speaking to that whole resonance, this is an explicit influence, but Ajahn Sona was talking about also how there's stories of Socrates standing for 48 hours unmoving, which perhaps was jhana. And although Aristotle and Plato and Socrates had been interpreted through this sort of Western Enlightenment lens, like enlightenment, like the phase, their stated goal was to get off the cycle of rebirth. So anyways, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. Maybe we can have a conversation all on that.
I do want to say a little bit, not too much. For example, during the Vesak in Sri Lanka, we do have Vesak celebrations, so different kind of pandals are happening, and then those beautifully decorated Vesak lamps. And I noticed something like this, like this Star of David decorated. And then also, you also make it, convert it to a lotus flower. And I was wondering, maybe it is all over Sri Lanka when you have Vesak. You can see those beautifully decorated Vesak pendants, Vesak lamps, and one of them is something like this. I wonder, was it the reason that maybe this particular professor must have seen some of these pictures over there? Could be. And yeah, even this time in our temple over there in Los Angeles, we also had some Vesak lantern similar to that. I don't know if he noticed or if he saw something like that. Interesting. But this is, yes, originally it is a Jewish symbol.
Very interesting. Not sure if I've seen it, but thank you so much, Bante, for sharing it. And Shadow of Label says, I told an angry person today to keep their gift as they were angry with me and they got confused. Great result. We were talking about it, Venerable Malanyani and I, in the live stream a few days ago about that sutta. So I'm glad that you actually put it in action and you got the person from being angry to being confused. That's actually a great result. Enrique says, Venerables, how can we become free from the dukkha associated with having a limited existence in this life, especially as we face the limitations of time as we get closer to death? Maybe Bhakti Sumita, would you like to address this?
Yes, you have to be free from dukkha associated. Yes, our existence is limited. We have a very short lifespan compared to other sentient beings, right? Maybe like compared to other the animals that we see, is maybe the crocodiles, or maybe what do you call that? The other aquatic animal who also can live like up to 400 years something.
Turtle? Sea turtle?
Yes,
I don't think
turtle.
they can live.
Yes. so they can live longer than us. Though, yeah. Um, our time is very limited as humans. Compared to devas and brahmas, they have much more longer lifespans. Then yes, I think the suffering also limited in that sense. If we compare with the other sentient beings in the hell realm, they have infinite suffering over there. So in a way, we are lucky that we can do some good karma too, provided we are more having more yoniso manasikara all the time. If we can maintain that yoniso manasikara, how do we tackle with that? How do we deal with such situations? Yes, one of the most important tools in our toolbox, I think, would be to have yoniso manasikara, that alertness, that mindful attention all the time. So when you have some unwholesome or what you call negative energy in us, um, so maybe we have to be careful. Unwholesome roots, lobha dosa, moha, greed, hatred, and delusion. Those things can appear to us when we are dealing with the world through our chakku sota gana jivha kaya mana. When we contact with the world outside through these six sense doors, we might arouse, we might generate unwholesome states. So make sure you have that you have that gatekeeper sati, the mindfulness, sati sampajanya, and also yoniso manasikara with you. That will be the savior of your life. Sufferings can be there as long as we live. Jati is dukkha, the birth is suffering, and then jara, decay is suffering, and then sorrow, lamentation, and to be associated with unpleasant ones, dissociated from pleasant ones, and yeah, sickness and death, and all these things are suffering, whether we like it or not. Those things can come to us from time to time. Those and also the eight vicissitudes, what we call labha, alabha, ayasa, yasa, ninda, pasansa, sukha, dukkha. Those things can come to us any moment of our life time. Profit and loss, and appreciation of the people from the people, and also people will throw us like all flowers and brickbats alike. You have to be uh, you have to be confident enough to accept them, and make sure you are not disturbed. Yeah, suffering. Yeah, life is not so comfortable as we think. Like the power or the money or the education or whatever you have, the sufferings will still be there with you. We know now, I think this is more than ever. That now we are able to recognize it, we are able to realize it, suffering. All the people who thought that they are like unassailable, invincible people, all those powerful, maybe political leaders, maybe very rich people, maybe very highly educated people, have they not been affected by COVID-19? They can run away, right? They cannot run away. The Buddha said, like, na anta likke na samudra majje na pabbatanang vivarang pavita na vijjati so jagati pradeso yathatito munchaya papakamma. Whether you are in deep inside the water, or whether you are in the middle of the ocean or the sky, yeah, up above the sky, or wherever you are, inside the cave, or inside the very fortified fortress, wherever you are, the karma can come to you. They can sneak into you no matter how guarded you are, well fortified you are, karma can come to you, so the suffering can come to us. We just have to live with it, and then we have to find a way out of it. Just like I think we were talking about that this morning also, when we were talking about, yesterday, I guess. Yeah, when we were talking about the Paticca Samuppada. Yeah, we are kind of all trapped in a rip current. We have to be smart, skillful swimmers to come out of that, to decode that labyrinth, to decode that whirlpool vortex that we are all engaged in. Otherwise, we will all be trapped in that whirlpool, and we will keep running around in samsara. And somewhere, somehow, a smart person, a skillful person has to know, hey, I'm just running around. There is no end of it. I have to come out of this. And so those smart people will somehow, somewhere, will go with the flow, and somewhere, somehow, he or she will find a way out of it, and only then you will be able to come out of the suffering. Yeah.
Thank you, Bante. Yes, I have to say that actually contemplating contemplating rebirth is also very powerful. At the very beginning, when I started quote unquote believing in rebirth, or I started making sense in my mind, I thought, oh, this is kind of great. Endless, opportunities to do all the different things that I like and want to be. But then it dawned on me that actually it was quite scary. How many, more high schools torments over and over again to go through, and how many actually really unhappy states of existence, how many more depressive states should we go to, and how many times without having the teachings of the Buddha should we actually wander in samsara. So when there is dukkha associated with having a limited existence in this life, I think it's actually helpful to shift it into a sense of urgency, of actually really looking at what incredible opportunity, karmic conditions that we have the Dhamma, that we have the teachings of the Buddha that bring us out of suffering, and to practice them. And then we're energized and we're like, there's little time. That's great, because I have a little time, like not no time at all, but actually a little time to practice. And that little time is precious. So we don't have to waste it, and we can actually really work towards awakening. Just by saying this, for example, now I'm energized. I'm going to just want to go and meditate and and realize awakening. Anyway, let's go to the next question from Kumu, who says, Venerables, how can we practice Nekkhamma, one of the 10 paramitas, in our daily lives? Is it by staying on the middle path without desire or aversion? Tamisabo?
Oh, I feel like I talked a while on that whole Italy thing. Does Ajahn Kobila want to take a whack at this one, or?
I could. I did. Yeah, I didn't feel like you spoke too long. I love hearing you, but maybe we can both share. We
Deal.
can go.
Let's share.
50-50.
Half.
All right.
You first.
50-50.
Yeah, 50-50. Yeah, practicing Nekkhamma or renunciation for people who are not so familiar with the Pali is one of the paramitas, the 10 perfections. And yeah, there are many ways you can practice Nekkhamma, many ways you can practice. One translation, which I think is maybe more approachable than renunciation, which is almost like in English, it's basically synonymous with, hard living or austerity. Basically, renunciation, austerity, they seem to go together in English usage. But maybe just an easier translation is simplicity. So how can you practice simplicity in daily life? And yeah, I think you give a really good idea. Just staying on the middle path without desire or aversion. I mean, then basically that's the one of the 4 components of right mindfulness. So mindfulness, when it's talked about by the Buddha, is not just a single mental quality, but is a tapestry, or it's a combination of several different mental qualities, which are outlined in what's called the refrain of the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, the Satipatthana Sutta, the discourse on the foundations of mindfulness. So what is right mindfulness? It is knowing the body, the mind, feelings, or dhammas in and of themselves, ardent, alert, and mindful, putting aside greed and distress with reference to the world. And it's that 4th one, putting aside greed and distress with reference to the world, which is really all about balance. It's basically, you could summarize that by saying, be ardent, clear, comprehending, mindful, and just live balanced and simple. And so, take that up if that's how you are appreciating it now. Then take that up, because there are so many different ways of approaching these different dhammas, these different wholesome mental qualities. And I mean, one could also look at it on just like the world around us, how we relate to our stuff and our things. And that's a whole nother level where you can really delve in and dive into what it means to live a simple life in it. But really that does differ from person to person. Whereas this staying on an even keel, not craving, not averting from the different things, but staying balanced, that's where the path is. So I think you put your finger right on it, Kuma. Taniswa, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a good answer, Ajahn. I think that the practical things you kind of motion to, perhaps I'll just speak to those, because like Longpo Pasano says, the props are important, and I don't think people avail themselves of all the quote unquote props that the Buddha really laid out for lay people. So, one really important thing is just having a reference point apart from our daily lives to look at our daily entanglements from. So this is the beauty of the practice of the Uposatha day, which is a Sabbath, basically, approximately once a week on new, quarter, and full moons. But I think for lay people, it can be much easier just to orient it around a weekday, like Sunday or something where you're free. And the traditional practice is to take on the 8 precepts during that day, which, no sexual activity, the other 4 of the first 5 precepts, and no intoxicants, etc., no killing. But the additional 3 are: 1, doesn't eat at the wrong time, so doesn't eat after noon, which really frees up the afternoon to practice and, not cook. It cuts out the sort of going out for dinner with people aspect, or making dinner or having that. It gives you time for seclusion in that sense. And the mind and body are bright for meditation in the evening if you haven't been eating. The 7th precept is to not adorn oneself or beautify oneself or indulge in entertainment. So turning off the phone, avoiding the TV, not putting on the lipstick or whatever, and just simplifying in that way. And then the last is to not sleep on high or raised beds. So you can sleep on the ground if you want, or a sort of more modest cushion. But I think having that reference point every week is really helpful in that it just gives you some way of stepping out and seeing the difference in the quality of your mind. Because that, if you can give up or mitigate your attachment to that phone or all these other aspects, the TV show in your day-to-day life, I mean, that is the eventual goal, but it really helps to have these sort of clean breaks at least once a week to have a reference point. And that contrast becomes more and more apparent to the point where you really are able to let go more and more of these other things, because you see clean and wholesome joy that's there when you don't entangle yourself in these things that are more coarse. And renunciation is a difficult word because it has this sort of Puritan echo of soul deadening. But the more you practice this path, the more you realize that if the sort of flame of the heart is constantly being buffeted by the winds of desire and aversion and entertainment, it never grows strong. It's always kind of sputtering. But when you begin to hold that center better, then the heart has a chance to grow really bright. And so there's a great happiness with the simplicity that Ajahn is referencing. And yeah, so I'd say that's helpful. Going on retreat is really helpful to get that same reference point in a bigger sense. And then, very practical ways of minimizing one's possessions. I think it's Meister Eckhart who said that full of things, empty of God, full of God, empty of things. And there's a wealth of literature, from this sort of new age Japanese minimalist movement, which is really helpful in terms of just clearing the decks. So yeah, lots of practical things.
Thank you so much, Venerables. And now we have a stand the cat moment for everybody to increase the audience. Stan is very happy and says hello to everyone watching. And Sam says, Bhante, is Sakaya Ditti personality view in the 10 fetters related to anatta? For example, is one who understood anatta has gotten rid of Sakaya Ditti? Bhante Sumita?
Okay. Yeah, Sakaya Ditti is the personality view in 10 fetters. And it is also related to anatta. If you have no Sakaya Ditti, you might not get scared. I remember yesterday that very cat, stand. When we were sitting at the evening tea table, the cat jumped onto the lap of someone and she was scared. I said, "Oh, you have Sakaya Ditti." Because you are scared. Because we think I am this body belongs to me, and so I think one of the ways to test your own Sakaya Ditti is, yes, when you get like suddenly you get goosebump, like suddenly you get scared or shocked, that means you still have it. um, so Sakaya Ditti is always related to this concept, this notion of this is me, this is myself, and this is my body, my I, me, myself. That notion, it will be very difficult to get rid of. That is very deeply rooted in us. So we still have to work slowly. In Anapanasati meditation, for example, it is said how you have to think of your own breath body as just body and not being. So when you keep practicing that, actually the Anapanasati can be turned into Vipassana. When you think, oh, this is breath, incoming and outgoing breath, and you see the breath coming and then leaving and just evaporating, inhale and evaporate, exhale and evaporate, and you think of the whole body. Sabbakaya patisangvedi asasisami sikati, the whole body breath. And that is and then next one also is really interesting. In the Satipatthana Sutta, it is mentioned, you think this is just a body and not being. So this is a good way to remind ourselves, train ourselves. Every single thing that we have in our body is actually separate, things, and we can claim possession to any of these, whether it is eye, nose, ear, tongue, body, even the mind. All this will, if you analyze them separately, deeply, profoundly, you clarify that. You can explore into deep into that. You will notice that nothing belongs to me. Whether we like it or not, I have no control over them. It is that is why, like when you get sick, you don't want to get sick, right? But you can control. You get sick. You don't want to get old, but you get old. You can't get rid of it. So that is because we. That is why it is called anatta. There is no control in us. That is the no self theory. So um, it is said like anicca dukkha anatta. Yada niccang tan dukkang. If something is impermanent, that is suffering. Yang dukkhang tadanatta. If something is suffering, that means you have no control over it. So you can say, "This is me. This is myself." If you say like this is me, then you should be able to control. You have no control. Let's say like you are going to die tomorrow. Can you postpone? You can say I have an exam tomorrow. So can you the Mara? Can you come maybe 1 month later? I have an exam. I have to get ready for that. Or you can say, can you say like I have an interview, or I have my daughter's wedding coming up next month, so I, I want to live a little bit more longer. Can you give me a chance? No chance. So the Mara, it is said, Yuddhang atti jayo natti, sabbe machi parayana. Like there is a war that we are all engaged in, but there is no victory. Sabbe machi parayana, we all of us are just lesser mortals. We are subject to that. And lancha gaho na vijyati, I really like that statement. Mara is one person who never takes bribe. You can bribe others, but not the Mara. You can postpone the death just like that. So these are good ways to think that glorious uncertainty of our life that teaches us this is impermanent, and this is suffering, and there is no soul. And work on your own personal self identity thing, and then you can see this impermanence and the suffering, and then you will be able to slowly, as the two Bantes talked about the Nikama paramita, right? Giving up. So somewhere, somehow, we have to be tired of this. And so Nibbindati and Nibbida virajyati and Viraga vimuchyati and Vimuttasming Vimuttamiti jnanang udapadi. So one day you have to be tired of it and leave everything behind, renounce these things, and then you have to realize the truth, and then you will know I'm liberated. So all those layers and layers of attachments, we have to get rid of one by one.
Thank
But
you, Venerable.
Bhante Sumit, in this scenario, is Stan the cat Mara or the Dhamma?
Yeah, it depends on how you take it. It can be a blessing in disguise. Oh, this is like an angel. It reminded me I have I have been reminded. Okay, I have to be a little more careful now.
Or we can go like the Bhikkhuni Arhants. Is this a human being or a non-human being? This is not the evil one.
All right, some of you know Stan better than anyone, so you can probably speak to this.
He has both sides. But
Today when we were meditating, he came again. He was using that usual regular sound. And then he was sleeping on my lap, and until the whole meditation session, somehow I noticed that he really likes meditation. He wants to sit with us, when we meditate.
Yes, I love meditation. He suffers from the hindrance of sloth and torpor after a while and starts snoring. All right, and we can go to the next question from Bobby, who says, is Nimbutsu faithful to the Buddha's teachings? So if I remember correctly, Nimbutsu is the Pure Land of Japanese Pure Land, fundamentally. And it's not the most popular form of Buddhism in the West, but it's actually the most popular form of Buddhism, Pure Land Buddhism, worldwide. And for us Westerners, we tend to start questioning whether or not it's real Buddhism, and we get all defensive about it. But actually, my understanding from having really lovely practitioners of Pure Land Buddhism coming to Buddhist insights, it's that it's actually a lot more complex than how we normally understand it, how it normally it's shared in Western circles. First and foremost, because actually most of the literature is available only in Chinese, and it's not really translated, so very, very little information is shared in a language that we can easily understand. And also, I mean, the fact that, Amida Buddha, I don't think is particularly mentioned in the Pali Canon, but definitely a lot of different Buddhas in different realms of existence are mentioned. So it's not only not in contradiction, but it's actually it totally makes sense. This being said, I'm not a practitioner of Pure Land Buddhism. It doesn't really work for my karmic conditions. Theravada, the flavor that is closer to the Theravada Buddhism seems to be a good fit for my mind. So personally, I don't practice it. But there are other monastics that I know that I very much look up to, that if it's not their main practice, definitely they integrate it in it. Actually, Bhante Sudaso is one of them. He loves going to Pure Land retreats in Taiwan. He's gone to a few, and he have found them extremely beneficial, actually, to cultivate deep samadhi. Even though it would be very different a Pure Land retreat, than what you would think, in Theravada terms of what are the conditions conducive for samadhi. It's mainly, chanting. Amitabha, Amitabha, Amitabha in the Chinese tradition. Yet he has some really good. He attains some really good samadhi in those retreats, as well as actually devotion and faith in the path. So yeah, you can try it out and see if it works for yourself. But fundamentally, every flavor of Buddhism, as long as doesn't have some weird kind of reputation, and you can easily find it online these days if you put the lineage online and then you read sexual scandals and extortion and all that sort of stuff, then maybe stay away. But if it doesn't have any kind of ill reputation of that sort, it's probably a really good path. And unless the Venerables have anything to say on Pure Land Buddhism, maybe we can go to the next question. All right. Pial says, trivial karma can be changed. So after all, karma is not deterministic. So we have hope, and we're essentially shaping our future right now. So there is positive power of karma, and it is not hopeless. Actually, it's not a question. It was a comment. Let me see if there is a question. Oh, yes, Pial says, the chant that Bhante Sumita was sharing earlier is essentially wishing for a Kalyana Mitta in future lives, just in case we don't get to the end of the path right now. So not wishing to associate with a fool may be this wish.
I think a lot of people like the chanting. And really appreciate also that that can be connected to us in some way. Like when we are maybe mentally and physically a little bit a week, chanting also really, really very helpful. And when you are still powerful, maybe the chanting still can be really, really important. I would like to chant again this one and see the meaning also. Imina punya kangmena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. So over here, imina punya kamena, by the power of this merit, mame bala samagamo, may I not be associated with foolish friends. I will come to the foolish friends later on. Satang samagamo hotu, may I be associated with satang, means kalyanamita, good, spiritually rich friends. Yava nibbana patya means not in the future, until I attain the nibbana. Yava means until I attain the nibbana. So from right now, it starts from now onward. So currently and in future, may I always have those wonderful friends association. I think that is the meaning here. Having good friends in our life is always a very enriching experience. You feel really safe and happy when you have good friends. Sometimes when you have I would like to say, like, there can be people in our life that don't match our wavelength. That maybe at that way, those can be like unmatched, like mismatch. So those people can be avoided for the better if you can really cope up with them. So that way you can walk alone. Maybe if you have some good friends in your life, so much the better. Otherwise, like the Buddha said in Kaggavisana Sutta, Eko chare Kaggavisana kapo, just be confident in yourself and walk alone. You don't need anyone if you don't have any matching good people with that matching wavelength. That's also really important. You need to have those wonderful people that you feel comfortable with, you feel safe, and you feel those good friends that always help you, like those anukampaka mittas, those people who are sympathizing you, those atthakaya mittas, those who are counseling us, and samana sukha dukkha mitta, when you have ups and downs in your life, they will share with you, and they are really important friends, rather than having those anya dattu haramitta. Whenever they come to you, they take something from you. They steal something from you. That is the anya dattuhara. And then there can be like apaya sahayamita. They will not lead you to the heaven or the nibbana, but they will lead you to the hell or the downward misery. So you have to be careful of such people too. And there can be some people who always try to um, distract you from what you do, what if you are doing something right. So there are in Sigalovada Sutta, there are 4 fake friends, 4 wonderful friends. You have to find them and be associated with the wonderful good friends. In the what do you call
Sigalaka.
Sigalaka, yes, and also in the Mittani Sansa Sutta, Bhavata Bakho Bhavati Vipavutto Saka Ghara Bahunang Upajivanti Yomittanang Nadubati. You maintain good friends, you will never be in short of food. When you come home or you go out, you will always have the luxury of food and everything. And in this 10 stanza, beautiful short sutta, Buddha has given so many wonderful advisor that why we should we should maintain good friends. It's really important. I remember one monk was telling me, sometimes, I live alone, he said. I live alone because I feel like it is more comfortable to me. Sometimes when I see like the other people, they come to me and like monks or whatever, like I feel they're not comfortable. I mean, that wavelength is different for me. So it's better to be away from them, safely, keeping them away. Not that I am like having some negative, but I feel more comfortable with my own journey. Sometimes, yeah, it can work for some,
Mm.
because rather than like keep struggling with challenging people around, maybe you go on your own path, right? You feel like peaceful and happy. If
Mm.
you find those wonderful good friends, remember there are really, really wonderful, wonderful people around the world. If you find them, if you meet them, don't leave them. Stay in touch with them, follow up with them. That will be really, really helpful, because the friends are always very, very helpful. The good friends, they can help us in so many ways. When we have ups and downs in our life, they can rescue us. So it is very important to have the association of wonderful good friends. Somebody like Sariputta Moggallana, remember? Sariputta Moggallana, when they were Kolita and Upatissa, they had a vow to each other, promise to each other. The person who finds the right path first will have to tell the other one also. So when Upatissa went to Venerable Assaji, when he heard the Dhamma from him, the first one who call it Upatissa was searching for, he was running to his friend. He was searching for his friend to share that beautiful experience that he had with Venerable Asaji. He said, I found, just like Eureka, Eureka. I found the Dhamma. Let's go. And we have the Buddha now. We have the Dhamma now, and he told the Dhamma to him. He shared that wonderful message with him. Remember, when we
Mm.
have good friends, they will never leave us. They will always help us. They will always rescue us from
Mm.
every single ups and downs in our life. So it is always good to have wonderful, good friends. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, Bante. And we are very close to the end of Monk Chat. So there are two questions actually that I would like to mention one after the other and invite Ajahn Kavilo to say a few words. So Amaranta says, last month when I was in the hospital very sick, I was really conflicted about having more desire of existing, but I thought to deny my wish for surviving was unskillful. And then our friend Chittapada, that I'm very sorry to hear, is saying, I am 8 weeks away from medical assistance in dying. I'm not dying, but I am eligible due to my level of suffering. After a 14-year path, it's ending with such delusion that I can't break it. Thoughts? Ajahn Kavilo, if you can address the two questions on illness and sickness, that would be very helpful.
Yeah. When we're actually sick, that's when we get to see just how superficial, and transitory and passing the pleasures that we usually get out of this body can be. So in a sense, you're really just seeing truths which have always been there, just kind of underneath the surface. And but yeah, how do you do that? I mean, it's almost the definition of being sick, that it's uncomfortable and it's not easy. So there's no real kind of quick and easy easy answer to this because it requires patience. But as the Buddha said, patient austerity, tapa, is, patience is the foremost tapa. Patience is the foremost austerity. So if you can, just keep remembering the teachings, and even while you're sick, even as, a very common thing when we're sick is that our mindfulness just does lap because of the pain. So the extent to which we can just come back and keep remembering the teachings, remembering to try to be mindful, and to remember the positive aspects of the mind. So recollecting the joy of a mind which is bright and clear, and it might seem inaccessible at times, especially when the body is in so much pain, but there is a joy which can be tapped into pretty much at any time, no matter the state of the body. A mental joy and refreshness, piti, a non-sensual joy and delight and gladness. And so, just trying to tap into that is a way to keep us, on the path and upright, even when the body is just failing and falling over. So, not so much time, so I'm not so able to address the question, but maybe one of our other venerables.
Yeah, I just want to echo Ajahn Kobila's, sentiment. And, it's rare that someone comes to these chat with something. So, we can speak about loss and parting, and yet it's always harrowing when someone comes onto the session with a real situation like that. And, we try not to talk about rebirth and other, the continuance of life in too much, because for some people it's not what they're interested in, and fair enough, the Buddha said it wasn't necessary to practice the path at some level. But I also think that the tack that a lot of people take, where they're sort of like, oh, I don't know, maybe not, it's a bit lazy, because what happens after death is, it really affects our existential situation significantly. And I know that as soon as I started delving into the literature, and there's a good deal of it, there's a professor named Ian Stevenson from the University of Virginia, who over the course of 40 years conducted studies on maybe several thousand children, recording their past life memories they usually remembered, and then verifying them. And many books were written by journalists that followed him. One is called Life Before Life. There's a podcast recently called, I think, from Hi-Fi Nation, called The Nature of Self and Rebirth, that goes into this whole subject area. But reading those books with a seriously open mind was what opened me to the possibility that rebirth was actually possibly real. And I think for someone really confronting this moment, we don't really have the luxury of holding back from talking about it. Like, it can be a real source of strength to know, that things will go on, and even if you don't believe in that, if you can investigate that with an open mind, it could be really helpful at this juncture. And just not to underestimate the power of the Kamma you've cultivated on this path. You talk about having to end this journey with delusion, but if you've been practicing for 14 years, the karma you've cultivated is unbelievably potent. The chance to encounter this Buddhist path, and you might not see it, but I would have a lot of faith in what you've developed inside of you, and have take heart in that. And a lot of teachers talk about, in those difficult moments when, as Ajahn Kobilov says, mindfulness lapse, listening to Dhamma talks, just holding yourself in that as much as you can, and have faith that if you've been practicing and set your aspiration to continue to practice, that the Dhamma will care for you. So, and also, I know that you can find emails for Empty Cloud and Clear Mountain and elsewhere online. And if you email us when you're going through difficulties, or if you are coming near a point of passing, then we can get monastics to chant for you at many monasteries. So we'd be happy to do that as we're able. But have faith in what you've cultivated.
Thank you, Venerables. Yes, and I echo everything that has been said by the other monks. And we've known you online, Chittapala, for some time, and I really encourage you to recollect your own goodness. Even though I haven't met you in person, I can recollect your own goodness of all the interest, the love that you have put in practicing. And so I haven't met you and I can do it, you definitely can do it a lot. And really the light of all the virtuous qualities that you have developed. And yeah, nourish that really happy mind, that loving mind, that actually your mind is no different than the mind of the devas, when you are so filled of virtue. So you have a divine mind. So yeah, lifting up a little bit, nourishing the heart, I think is a good thing to do in these situations. And yes, absolutely, we would be happy. Actually, both Empty Cloud and Clear Mountain Monastery, we can chant for you at the same time. We can make that happen, put it together, absolutely. And last question, even though we're out of time.
Can we take a moment actually to chant for him? Maybe on behalf of all of us, we will, the Mahasangha, bless him, Chittapala, at this difficult moment. I think we always will keep you in our prayers, in our meditation time all the time. And definitely we'll keep, maybe also let us keep our palms together, everyone. We would like to invite everyone who join us today online. Let us keep our palms together close to our heart and pray for Chittapala. May he be well, happy, healthy, safe wherever he is, and may he attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana, the absolute peace and happiness at the end of his samsara. Short chanting, but with good heart, we will do this chanting for Chittapala. अभिवादन शीलिस नित्यं
Udapachayino
चत्वारो धम्मा वर्धन्ति आयुवन्नो सुखं बलम् आयुरारोग्य संपत्ति सग्ग संपत्तिमेव च अतो निब्बान संपत्ति इमिनाते समिज्जतु साधु
Sadhu.
साधु.
Sadhu.
May you be well, happy, healthy.
Thank you, Venerables. We started chanting a little bit slower because there was a bit of a echo, Bante. And Christine, last question for Tanisabo says, Venerable Nisabo mentioned in a different Q&A that having one shoulder bare is a sign of ethics, but I've always been confused why that is so back in ancient times. Are there any explanations?
I don't know if I said ethics, so at least not in the terms of wearing a shirt, I assume it's cold there. So I think in the context of that question, well, someone else can chime in on this one, but basically I know in ancient India, the right hand was considered clean and the left hand dirty for reasons that I probably don't need to go into. And so the bearing one's right shoulder was a sign of respect and So that's why when we're in monastic situations, we bare the right shoulder, whereas when we go outside, we cover both. And if you circle a stupa or sacred point, and in the suttas, you'll have people circle, the Buddha keeping their right side towards him. And similarly, you're supposed to circle clockwise, keeping your right towards the center. But in the West, because it's cold, we also put on shirts at times, even though we still wear our robes like this. And we have specialized kind of shirts for that, because for the first few years at Chithurst in England, all the monks had Christmas sweaters, which sounds great, but it's not as inspiring. So, although you could change the Korwat at Empty Cloud, Ayasoma, if you wanted.
That is great. Do you have pictures of that time?
We could look.
That sounds like
I
great.
think if you know the size of the robe that we are wearing, you will be surprised. It's a long cloth, and wearing it all the time, wrapping our body, will be challenging. In ancient Greek, I think those days they were also having those long shawls, how they were trying to cover up, and it is way easier this way. When we go out, we of course cover, and if we stay at the temple, we would like to maybe one time, if you come to the monastery, we show how we wear the robe. And there is a special way, and also it is a very traditional way of wearing the robe. And yeah, I think in the Asian, especially the Asian countries, it is hot and humid, and so you can cover the whole thing all the time. It will be very challenging for them, but still they do it when they go out. But when they are at the temple, they would live like this robe. This is a very traditional way of wearing, but not to disrespect or something. But if you remember, like those days in the past, people were topless. They were, even today, I know in Sri Lanka it is hot and humid. It is difficult to wear clothes. Many people, they just wear only a lungi or sarong, and so they just feel comfortable, just wearing only the lower clothes, and that is there. So it is the white collar thing, and all the other things, the clothes belong to the cold countries. And sometimes I feel like they are trying to adapt those things in even our countries. It is really suffering. They have all the tight collars, and on the top you also have a necktie. It's even more suffering for them. And then even have another overcoat. I don't know how they survive. It's really suffering for them. So these clothes are just meant to be to practice spiritual path. And very simple clothes is this robe. And also it is not to decorate. People when we wear these things, nobody will really like us. It is really just to get rid of those fashions, maybe yeah, chinna bhinna pata dharoti bhikkhu, it is said. So the monk who wears cut, and those clothes cut into pieces, then they put together, and that is why he is called a monk. And also sansare bhayang ikhati the bhikkhu, a monk is scared of the sansara, so he wears the robe, and he goes he works towards the nibbana. Yeah, so wearing robe is really an honor. It gives so much amazing power. And this is also called Arahanta Dhaja, the flag of the liberated ones. And this is an unbroken lineage. And we monks are representing that unbroken lineage of great monks from the Buddha's time. So it's really amazing that we wear these robes. Monks from all over the world, they wear robe in different colors, maybe different fashions, maybe, but they have the robe. They respect the robe so much. They carefully fold the robe and they carefully place it, in their kuti or under the pillow, and they really respect that so much. So chivar or robe is really a very powerful thing, a very meaningful thing. It gives us so much power and so much safety and security. Thank you.
Thank you to all the Venerables. So we're at this point really way out of time. So if we didn't get to your questions, you're welcome to tune in next week again for Monk Chat and ask them at that time. But we can end this evening with 3 sadhus.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
May you all be well and happy, and may all good things come to you.